episode 45, part 2, which is being recorded the day after I recorded part 1 because I was in no mood to answer questions, and I want to answer your questions in the best mood I possibly can. Because sometimes you people ask me for advice, and it's bad to give advice when you are agitated, depressed, angry, in any other mood other than a positive or neutral mood. I don't want to put myself in that situation where I'm giving out bad advice, destructive advice that'll get you in trouble. So, like last week, I'm going to answer questions from Reddit, the new subreddit, which I encourage you to subscribe to and contribute to because I think it'll be a useful resource for all of us. So here we go, sorted by best, what you decided to upvote, which questions you decided to upvote, and this one comes from Standard Nazi Party. Are you going to make a series of videos about degenerate subreddits like you do with Tumblristas? I could do one-off videos because I think having like a Reddit series would just be too much. It would be like 3 series at once. I could do one-off videos like I did with the Bella and the Bulldogs thing. Or I could integrate some posts from Reddit, some material from Reddit, into the Tumblristas episodes like I did one time with Twitter, which is the more illiterate version of Tumblr if you search for the right terms, but it's something that I would consider given how many people voted up your question. This next one comes from "'Tis a Sad World." ICF, thank you for your work. It's a bubble of air in this ocean of pestilence. As you may already know, France has been quite invaded by North Africa due to its politics to import workers in the 60s. As a result, now 75% of the kids in kindergarten have Arab names, which doesn't seem to bother anyone in the government. I myself am a mix between a French father with 28 known generations before him and a Moroccan mother. I recently learned that this union was based on a bet my father made with his brother to piss off my right-winged grandfather. They both decided to marry a foreigner, thinking it would annoy him. Your fuck you, mom and dad, baby boomer version. I can't manage to hate my father for his decision because filial duties. So I just don't mention it with him. Consequently, here I am mixed with no real root and no desire to continue that, because I don't wish for any kid to be mixed. At that, you can add that I'm not attracted to white nor Arabs, but have probably a case of yellow fever. So long story short, I won't marry because I don't want to dirty some 10 plus generations tree of some white or Asian girl because ma feels and ma tastes. Therefore, the 30 generations of my family will stop with me. I was wondering what you thought about mixed people, what they should do, and if they should continue the genocide of any race. Mixed unions end up fucking up both tree lines. Approaching 30 years old has been bothering me, but that feel when no GF has been less annoying since I've decided that anyway, I have to forget the idea of fulfilling our basic natural instinct, procreate and further the genes. TLDR, what do you think of mixed people and what they should do? What place do we have in the saving of the races? Again, thanks for your work. Some people get mad at me for saying things like this, but the demographic damage has already been done. Long before you. Long before you existed or people like you existed. The French decided their fate, and they decided, no, we aren't going to be French. We're going to be Moroccans. You had no part in deciding this. Your father may have played a small part, but if there weren't many, many men and women like him, you wouldn't be in this situation. So you have to ask yourself, what do you want? Because there's nothing that you can do to undo the damage. Do you want children? Do you want a wife? And if the answer to that is yes, I would recommend that you would find a wife with a similar situation as yours. A similar bloodline to yours. And this is not for the country's sake because, like I said, the country's already done for in terms of its original demographics. You have to worry about if you want to have children, in what way are you going to relate to your child the best? In what way is your child going to relate to you in the best way they possibly can? So if you find a wife despite your tastes, despite your preferences, with a similar genetic makeup to you, your children will better relate to you. They will feel like less of an alien. Whereas if you go with any other race, except for maybe Moroccan, full Moroccan, they're going to be very, very alienated. Because that's a common thing I hear from mixed race people, that they don't fit in one way or another. And I don't think any less of them for it, but I do feel bad for them, because a need for belonging, that is an essential human need. It's very important. So if you really, really want children, you have to think of your children first. How are they going to relate to the world? How are they going to relate to the first contact they have with the world and their parents? The first contact they have with the sexes. How they relate to man and woman. And it's easier for them to do this if both parents are of their same race. But given your message, it doesn't seem like you want to have children, so if a woman is all you want, you're going to have a harder time given your tastes and your what you want out of a relationship. It's going to be hard to find a woman who will fall in line with those two expectations you'll have. And this advice applies to any people who are mixed. What culture is your child going to have an easier time fitting into? This is a question all people who are of mixed stock have to ask themselves. Because ultimately, if you plan on having children, the relationship is not about you. It's about your children. And I'll go into more detail on that later. People have a real fucked up view of what relationships should be. And I think a lot of the trouble you see in the world is a result of that. It's primarily in European and North American countries. The Anglosphere. But how can I explain to people that relationships aren't about you? It's not about the self. It is anti-self. But, again, I don't harbor any ill will towards mixed-race people, unless, of course, they harbor ill will towards me. But that applies with anybody. But thank you for the question, and I wish you best of luck with your life, and mixed or not mixed, it's pretty fucked up that your existence is a result of your father's rebellion. I would be incredibly upset if I were in such a situation myself. So, I've never heard of such a thing, marrying a foreigner to piss off your parents. It's like dating one or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's one thing, but having children with one is just, that's some people. Some people. From Funky Jammies, what is your opinion on the Jews? Well, I don't very much like the Frankfurt School Jews that we let in to America when Hitler came to power. It's like we couldn't consider, gee, maybe these people are fleeing for a reason. Maybe there's a reason why the Third Reich doesn't want these people in Germany. But no. Americans clueless since God knows when. I like Brother Nathaniel. I like the one or two Jewish listeners I have. I have no problem with them. But I acknowledge that the Frankfurt School Jews cause of many problems. From ICA Reviews. What was that? Eco Reviews, by the way. Best hair, Donald Trump. Peter Brimlow, James Holmes, Rand Paul, or Dylan Roof. I'm going to go with Dylan Roof because bowl cuts. I myself do not have a bowl cut, but yeah, we'll go with that. What are your thoughts on the racism and lookism amongst homosexuals? Personally, I think it's hilariously hypocritical how gays demand acceptance and then outright exclude anyone but white tens in their dating profiles, from JT Conroy, who provided our lovely style sheet on our subreddit to make it look not generic, and also cut out Reddit's stupid-ass default logo that they change all the time. Honestly, I don't really have much of an opinion because I don't know many homosexuals. The ones that I do know are through the internet. The ones that send in questions to the show, the ones that comment on my videos. And of course, I appreciate all of their patronage. But this does remind me of an article, Protect Me From What I Want, Gay Workshop. I think that's what it was. Okay, here we go. Because you mentioned white 10 out of 10s. And pardon the fan noise in the background there. This is from campusreform.org, and this article is from March 19, 2013. Upcoming workshop at Brown University set to help queer minorities overcome attraction to queer whites. A group of Brown University students appear to be preparing an on-campus workshop in which queer participants will separate by race to work past their sexual attraction to Caucasians. We find ourselves falling always for the white queers, wishing we could have more agency in the process, be more intentional about who we desire and how, reads the official Facebook description of the event. Oh, but those gay, those camps for gay kids, making them not gay, those are so immoral. We are interested in generating a politics of sexuality that compels us to interrogate beauty as privilege and constructed by systems of white supremacy, ableism, capitalism, and heteronormativity. It continues. The Facebook page states the event is to take place in the Crystal Room at Brown University on April 8 from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The workshop, called Protect Me From What I Want, a workshop on privilege, power, and desire, is sponsored by an organization called the Comprehensive Allyship Network, according to the Facebook event page. After 2 artistic performances, I shudder to think what those are, participants will apparently be directed to separate between people of color and Caucasians before continuing the discussion. We will break into POC and white caucus groups for part of the workshop to unpack some of our specific experiences of racialized desire, reads the event description. This will be an intentional, anti-racist, and feminist space. Gay, anti-white, and feminist. I cannot imagine a place that I would want to avoid the most. From the Facebook page, it is unclear exactly which student group is hosting the event other than the Comprehensive Allyship Network, which is not listed as an official student organization. Kelly Garrett, coordinator of the LGBTQ Center at Brown University, acknowledged the event in an email to Campus Reform, but said she did not have any further details. The Brown University Events Department and the Student Activities Department told Campus Reform they were unaware of the event. Students organizing the event, however, appear to attend Brown University and apparently have hosted similar events in the past, such as the Comprehensive Allyship Network. At time of publication, 899 students had been invited, 117 had RSVP'd as attending, and 61 had replied, maybe. Student organizers did not respond to Campus Reform's request for comment in time for publication. Well, it seems to me that 2 years later, this is still a problem. if I'm being asked about it now, over 2 years later. Don't protect me from wanting to have my ass fucked, but please protect me from wanting to get my ass fucked by white people. Okay then. Next, from Trayvon Dindu. What's your opinion on dogs? Favorite dog breed? Best dog breed for the race wars happening. Don't have a favorite dog breed. I like dogs a lot. I like animals a lot. And the best dog breed for the race wars are in the happening. I don't know too much about attack dogs. German Shepherd, maybe? Those are the police dogs, right? That's what police usually use, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, German Shepherd might be a good option. Greasy Comb. I don't know why I like your stuff. I can't tell if it's helping me become a better person or just alienating me from people. How do you manage a decent social circle with the views you have? The trick is to find people, be honest with them, and see how much they tolerate your honesty towards certain things. I certainly don't have as many friends as I would if I were dishonest about certain things, but I have people. I have people that I see. I have people that I talk to. And the key to anything is to enjoy your own company. You have to enjoy your own company. You have to learn to live with yourself. Because there are going to be times when, yeah, you are alone. Even if you aren't full, I don't know, for lack of a better term, red pill. You have to learn to live with yourself. Once you develop a confidence in keeping yourself company, that'll attract more people. Friends or girlfriends, whatever it may be. But I understand in how it feels like you're alienating yourself, but it's not alienating yourself if other people reject you. If other people decide to end friendships over things you believe, which I think is pretty fucking stupid. But that's the world we live in. And if you want true friends, you have to be honest with them. I know this sounds like Saturday morning cartoon G.I. Joe morality, but it's true. And if people can't take that, so be it. They weren't going to be loyal to you regardless. It's their fault they can't take the heat, not yours, unless, of course, it is your fault. In that case, well, just make them be the aggressors in ending the relationship. From Deathwave88, what's your opinion of r/cringe anarchy? I like Cringe Anarchy. They've shared my stuff before, the Vine compilations, which helped it go somewhat viral. I think it has almost 90,000 views, so I'm thankful for that. I made a little bit of money from that video. Enough to buy an Italian dinner. From Vidya Game Massa. Hello, Common Filth. I do like the stuff that you put on your videos, especially the Tumblristas videos. Which it would be good if you made a part 25. It's coming, don't worry. I have a couple of questions for you. One, considering that gay marriage is now legal in America, what do you think will happen in the country for a couple of years and how shit it's going to be? They're going to go after tax-exempt status for our churches next. It's pretty much confirmed. Unless churches decide to compromise the teachings of Christ. Oh, even Islam. What does it say about this behavior that every significant religion prohibits it? And that's why they're going after the tax-exempt status, because they cannot compete with the truth. They cannot compete with what has organized humanity consistently throughout human history. So they have to reverse engineer the truth. They have to use their shitty little underhanded tactics in order to combat it. So that's what's going to happen. Churches will no longer be allowed to speak the truth. Mosques will no longer be allowed to speak the truth. Number 2, what kind of video games do you like and which one is your favorite? I do not have a favorite video game. I like puzzle games, I like shooters, I like racing games, I like all sorts of games. My favorite game of all time, though, is I don't know, maybe I've changed this, but I think the first WarioWare game, that's my favorite. It's one of the few games that I've kept, one of the few games that I have not sold. Number three, I've seen a video about a guy called Tex Mars in which he talks about homosexuals in Israel and why they want to spread homosexuality in the world. So my question is, what do you think about him and what he said? Video reference. I'll look at this later because I'm recording right now and I don't want to start up a video and interrupt my thought process here. Number four, what do you think of Judaism in general as a religion and the fact that they do not accept Jesus? Well, I disagree with them, and that's all I can really say about that with regard to that issue. Number five, how fucked up the country will be in an asexual / genderqueer / transracial / otherkin with headmates become the next president, and what laws are they going to propose? Your guess is as good as mine. I honestly, like I said, they're going to go after the churches and mosques. Islam will not be exempt because, as far as I'm concerned, they have the same sort of rules prohibiting certain sexual behaviors. And for some reason, those who engage in homosexual behavior sit at the top of the social hierarchy. I do not know why, for the life of me. But it's what it is. Number six, am I a good goyim? I don't know. Probably, you're probably as bad as I am. That's all for now, and thanks for reading it. No, you're welcome. Thank you for sending in those questions. From Nathaniel, 1914, what is your opinion on the United Kingdom? I think of it in the same way that I think of other Anglo countries, other European countries. The sun has set on not only the British Empire, but the rest of its extensions. So, I mean, I like British people. I like people from the UK in general. I mean, the ones that I've interacted with, but again, that's just a limited sampling. But there's really nothing that I can say that's more or less negative than what I have to say about America. Okay, here we go. From Kong of Dong. With the degeneration of modern Western women, many men are turning to foreign mail-order brides. There is a lot of data which suggests that these marriages have much lower divorce rates than domestic marriages. Also, non-Western women seem to have better family values, and they haven't been taught to rebel against traditional gender roles. So what's your opinion on mail-order brides? Do you think getting one is a good option for disillusioned Western men? I'm not opposed to Western men marrying non-Western women if what they want is a traditional woman and they themselves want to be a traditional man, but there is something that rubs me the wrong way about mail-order brides. It strikes me as a bit prostitute-like. Whether that's right or wrong, that's the feel I get. It creeps me out a little bit, I'll be honest with you. But I completely understand the appeal of a guy wanting a lady that's from Eastern Europe or whatever. Because if it's a white guy, well, the girl's going to be pretty genetically similar to him. Therefore, the children will be white. And the woman will be less infected by Anglo culture, what it has mutated into. But I don't like the idea of mail order brides. It's just, again, it creeps me out. And that's all I really have to say about it. But thank you for the question. This is from the Bad Guy. Hi CF, love your work. I'd like your opinion on something that's been bugging me about Christianity. I'm not a Christian myself, but I greatly respect this religion and its function in Western society. But Christianity seems to have an extreme focus on love and forgiveness, especially in the New Testament. While a healthy part of religion, many other religions counterbalances with duty and honor to prevent a slave-like mentality. I believe much of the earlier success of Christianity came from the fact that this love-focused religion, mixed with the European people, which had a very honor-based religion at the time. Jesus became the new Odin in a way, and both religions were better off for it. I can't help but see, when purely based on the New Testament, the precedence for the passive, love makes everything right, don't judge mentality we are seeing now. You can make a case that the Old Testament doesn't, but that book also claims that the Jews are the chosen people, so I can't take that too seriously. I'd be interested in your view on this as a Christian. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Well, definitely what the Christian ethic has mutated into is counterproductive to maintaining a civilization. How Christianity is interpreted is no way to maintain European civilization. Because once upon a time, Christianity aligned perfectly with Caucasian European breeding strategy. Christianity says all life is precious. Do not let petty concerns escalate into matters of violence. And this appealed to the white sensibility because white people have less children. They have to manage their resources more wisely. Therefore, they have to pick their battles a little more carefully, which is why Christianity, I believe, took such a strong hold in Europe. And a lot of the current problems with Christianity as it applies to Europe, European civilization, and the extensions of it, is a simple matter of misinterpretation. Like the don't judge mentality. How they said, Jesus said, don't judge. He said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. They think it means something more than what he said, which is to say, do not kill this whore for being a whore. That's all it meant. Do not kill somebody for their transgressions. That's all it meant. And then the whole matter of don't judge lest ye be judged bullshit. What that means, it's not a rhetorical device. It means if you're going to judge somebody by a certain standard, a certain metric, you better be able to meet that metric yourself. Like, I don't know, I judge people for being rich when I myself am poor. It's an example. Another example, when I was reading through the Reddits some time ago, like that one woman who was going to have a gangbang, and all the guys that were going to be gangbanging her, they were going to go at it without a condom. Now, if I engaged in this behavior myself, that would make me a bad person. However, I am monogamous. I do not subject my significant other to a gangbang in which she would become pregnant. I am perfectly at liberty to judge that behavior. Also, Jesus himself used violence. And that's another thing that people talk about. Don't use violence. That's not very Christ-like. Ooh, what would Jesus do? When these people they are their own gods. Their asshole is the god they worship. So I don't take theological advice from anybody. Unless, of course, they show themselves to be sincere in their beliefs, rather than just using it to justify the cause du jour. I think I'm using that term right. Whatever. But, yeah, you do say that the Old Testament says that Jews are the chosen people. Well, they had their chance at redemption, and they blew it. And that's all I'll say about it. But, yeah, the way that Christianity is used now is despicable, and it seems to have outlived its usefulness in terms of maintaining a civilization. Which is not to say that I am disavowing my beliefs, but I have to realize what they can be applied to. Next, from Schwartz Sonne. Or is that Sun? I don't know. Anyway, I have a bit of a pet theory, and I'm curious what you think of it. In short, right-wing social/political ideology is derived from the idea that man has the capacity to be more than a mere animal. Leftism, on the other hand, is dedicated to embracing base desires. Monarchy, the rightmost position really attainable, is essentially trying to replicate heavenly hierarchy on earth. The Platonists, and later St. Augustine, held that rejecting animal impulses was among the highest virtues, though of course procreative sex must occur. Man's animal instinct is more or less pee-pee friction, pleasure equals good, in the vast majority of people at least. Tangentially, what do you think of the three major Viennese schools of psychology? Thanks for everything you do. I think that's a good shorthand way of looking at it, and I certainly wouldn't correct you other than a few things here or there where the feminist left will claim to be more than just their vagina and body parts, whereas other feminists will contradict that and say, which is, ironically enough, I agree more with this side, that you can't be a woman without a vagina and a uterus, and I completely agree with that. I think that in order to be a feminist, you have to be a fucking woman. Not, I feel like a woman. How can you know what it is to feel like a woman? Really? How can you know what it is to be a woman? What impulses drive womanhood if you are not a woman? But regardless, I agree that from my perspective, I'm not trying to deny that human impulses exist. I think they should be redirected in such a way that benefits mankind. Rather than just, it feels good, I'm gonna do it. Accept me for doing this. Acting like a fucking animal. And your theory has a lot of merit when you consider who complains about hate speech the most. The political left, the social left. They complain about hate speech because somebody sent me a video where I forgot I have it saved in my YouTube favorites. I'll maybe share it at some point. But in this video, this guy says we are different from other animals in that we have the ability to hate. We can think of something and hate it. We can hate things we haven't even seen or met. We can hate ideas, things that don't exist in the physical world. An animal doesn't hate. An animal simply survives. Or dies. It eats, it fucks, it sleeps, that's about it. Animals do not hate. And as for the schools of psychology you bring up, and you mention Freud, which is really the only one I have an opinion on. I think that Freud did a lot of horrible damage to civilization, to the culture, and that's all I have to say. From DR Monarch, the criminally insane, along with people sending social signals for prestige, have been saying, love wins. Yeah, I know. CF, imagine that tomorrow 200 million Americans adopt your views about what love is. The next day, the CF defined love as a policy guideline. What is your definition of real love? What does a society look like when a different idea of love wins? Well, if this is going to be policy, here's my policy. Love will not be used. Love, affection, intimacy, whatever the fuck you want to call it, will not be used as a justification for any policy decision. It will not be used for promoting an agenda. Nothing. Because you know what love is? Like I've said before, love is a fleeting emotion that convinces people to do things that are in reality a bad idea. Think about it. When has love ever been an excuse to push any sort of agenda? Ever. Aside from this gay marriage bullshit. Never. So that's my policy. Love, in the eyes of the state, does not exist. There is only beneficial and not beneficial. There is only helpful and harmful. Love has nothing to do with any of that. Because, again, love convinces you that bad ideas are good. Love apparently makes you delusional. No, Not apparently. It does. Because look at where people place their love. I'm sure hoes love their pimps. I'm sure Larry Brinken loved masturbating to... I already brought that up. I don't have to bring it up again. Love is a toxic, poisonous concept. But this emotional bullshit, it's the inevitable result of soy, estrogen in the water supply, fluoride, whatever you want to blame it, GMOs, wherever you want to place your blame. That's what there is. That's what's to blame. Also, women being able to vote. Because vote like your lady parts depend on it, as Barack Obama's official Tumblr page put it during the 2012 election. That's what love gets you, making decisions with your crotch. Next. Okay, Deadly Protein Farts asks, somewhere in your podcast you said you are a Christian, if I'm not mistaken. What denomination are you? If it's too personal a question, then don't bother answering it. I've answered this before, and I have no problem answering it. The churches that I went to growing up were always these sort of non-denominational bro church type places that honestly did not have much to say that stuck with me, because I guess the pastors can't say too much that'll upset cat ladies. I don't blame them for it, but that's just what it is. So I'm not any denomination. From Ardent Hash. Excuse me. Hey CF, it's your pal Cody here with another interesting tidbit. Supposedly there is a huge community on Trungler that specializes in shoplifting and then bragging about their loot. Most of them are comprised of the same demographic of the standard user base that comprises the SJW Facebook, MySpace blog portal. Ralph from the RalphRetort.com has released a wonderful article detailing the subgenre of degeneracy. Our favorite Gamergator, based Milo, is supposedly working on an article on it as we speak. Can you speak on what you think about this? Basically, overindulged white girls that can't get a thrill anymore from getting anally pegged by their big black cock. Well, they've moved on to having a rainbow filter over their Facebook profiles. I'm sure that has stemmed some of the impulse to shoplift. I'm a part of something, yay! And then you tell them what that rainbow entails, and they'll be like, that's not what it's about love. Because they love getting anally pegged by big black cock. They relate to it. But sure, we'll take a look at this. Tumblr is a place where those who were once bullied become the crusaders they always wanted to be, fighting the good fight against the vicious Victoria's Secret models who dare to be fitter than they are, destroying the patriarchy that is cis-white and or gay black Hispanic male. And stealing. Yes, that's right. Tumblr has an entire outlet dedicated to those with sticky fingers, complete with tips and how-tos for dummies on the run. Though still relatively unknown, the Lyft shopping of Tumblr has been gaining more prominence lately. Sane folks watch as spoiled, snot-nosed brats brag and post their loot. Yes, that's right. After lifting, they will post stolen goods complete with pricing. And here's a screenshot, including 3 pairs of panties, which are very lacy and very sexy looking. Tisk tisk, girls, don't objectify yourself. Oh, also some candy and a bag of chips, it looks like. Or maybe. I don't know. Whatever. God damn, it's been like 6 months since I did this, but I saw some cute clothes. Came and conquered. So I don't have that same cockiness I used to, so I only snagged 5 items of clothing. This is despicable. Whatever. You know what? Honestly, this is what happens when you let people make their own decisions. Again, I say this a lot, but goddamn. Look at what happens when you give people personal autonomy. Especially teenage girls. Teenagers in general. They need structure. else they'll go fucking crazy. I don't feel like reading all of this, I'm sorry. But, yeah, that's my opinion on it. Alright, but thank you for the question. From Chunsi35, or Chuns. Again, I don't know how to pronounce these crazy screen names. They're not like real names, so apologies if I get any of them wrong. Hello, CF, you got a really enjoyable series going on. I really like listening to it. The absurdity on many of the things you talk about are good for a laugh, though as sad as those topics may be. I've got one question I've been wondering for a while. What is your opinion on the police and judicial injustices that have been going on for God knows how long? Knows how long now. Corruption, brutalities, etc. Thanks again and keep up the good work. Well, it seems that people only care about police overstepping their boundaries when it's some black person at the wrong end of it. I've mentioned this before a long time ago, but I didn't hear anybody crying out for justice for this 90-year-old man that was shot dead by police. You can look it up, 90-year-old shot. I think it was in Chicago. And they shot him, and nobody cared. Nobody cares when a SWAT team goes into some family's house. They got the wrong house, and they kill a dog that's barking, the family dog. That family's friend. That family's animal companion. Nobody gives a shit about that. Or what if it's a child that gets killed? Well, Black Lives Matter, so only if it's like a black baby that gets killed in one of them raids, which, to my knowledge, hasn't happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But if it did happen, I'm sure I'd fucking hear about it. So yeah, police are increasingly dysgenic, like much of society, and I am opposed to it. But let's be outraged by all of it instead of being outraged at that which fits our narrative. Fucking ridiculous. Alright, next up from Coon Hunter. Hi CF, love the podcast and listen regularly. Now that gay marriage is legal, where can conservatives go to from here? It's now a slippery slope of pause that seemingly has no end in sight. Well, conservatives, like they usually do, will pretend like gay marriage was a part of their platform for the entire duration that it was going on, and then once the next thing comes up, they'll be like, we as conservatives have always believed that marriage is between two humans who love each other, not a human and an animal. And they'll lose that battle too because they're clueless. They have no idea of what should be of their own. The only thing that conservatives conserve are previous versions, previous releases, previous builds of liberalism. And that's all I'll say about it because fuck conservatives. Fuck them. Okay, that does it for questions from Reddit. Let's do questions that you sent me by email. commonfilth@commonfilth.com is my email address. And if you prefer to send me an email, you can do that. Alright, first up from Anonymous. And this anonymous person lives in Croatia. First of all, I want to thank you for all of your content. I have listened to all episodes of Common Filth Radio, and some of them multiple times. Thank you for being the voice of reason in these sad times. My family and I are moving to Sweden because of an economic crisis, which doesn't seem to be going away. From this perspective, moving up north is a great thing. However, Sweden's immigration problem, rape laws, and overall mindset make my gut wrench. It may sound ungrateful, but I'm happy to get a chance some people would kill to have. I also know I will be exposed to degeneracy much more than in my homeland. I've already been there on vacation for a few weeks, and I can tell for certain that they are a bunch of snowflakes. My surroundings will influence me, and there is no escape from that. But how do I minimize the effect? I already have plans to get out of there as soon as money isn't an issue. I hope you understand my dilemma, and I would like to hear your thoughts. Keep doing what you're doing. Well, you are in a territory that I have never been in personally. I've always lived where I was born. I was born in America, and I've never lived anywhere else for any extended period of time, so what you're doing is a pretty brave thing, going to a culture that you aren't a part of, so I really wish you the best of luck. But as far as what you should do, how you should prepare, you're not going to have your personal safety endangered by being around liberal Swedes. You're really not. They're harmless to a fault. What you're going to have to look out for are the apparent roving gangs of Somalis that are apparently rampant in Sweden. Again, I don't know to what extent this is the case, but just pay attention to where the no-go zones seem to be. What parts of town, what parts of the country are dangerous to be in. Because you don't have to worry about the liberal dildo special snowflake Swedes that live in Sweden. Which is not to say that I don't know what the mindset of the average Swede is. Because I actually have a Swedish audience. And, I'm thankful for that. But I don't know how many Swedes are of my mindset, are of your mindset. But there are at least a few. In any case, there is a clear difference between what a Swede looks like and what a Somali looks like. I don't think I have to tell you what the difference is. I don't know where you're going to be living when you're in Sweden, but I think you'll know where to go in order to stay safe. Look at where the natives are. Look at where the white people are. Because as annoying as their opinions are, likely to be, they will not compromise your personal safety. And you can take comfort in that. So I hope you find yourself in a situation where you can maximize your safety and maximize your exposure to deviancy. Thank you for the email. This one is from Michael. I've started watching your videos down to Common Filth Radio 32 and agree with almost all your views, but the way you talk sometimes seems like you have given up on the white race. My question is, have you? If you have not, then when do you think we will hit the breaking point and get that Fourth Reich going? God knows we need it. I think of all the great Anglo and Teutonic bloodlines that were destroyed as a result of both world wars, and you wonder what could have been had those wars been avoided. You wonder what the white race could have improved itself into being had those wars not happened. But beyond that, I have to assess what I deal with on a regular basis in America, and I do not see a lot of promise in your average white, the whites that I see going about my daily business. And the best whites we have, they're trapped in this routine of having a family, needing to keep their job, and if they stand up for themselves on behalf of their race, then they might lose that job, they might lose that family. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to maintain your family, your little corner of the race, which is why you need leaders. But where are the white man's leaders? Do they exist? Is there anybody in America, at least, who is looking out for the interests of the white man? Is there anybody sticking up for him? Sticking up for him so that the family man doesn't have to? That he doesn't have to sacrifice his income, his family's well-being? I don't think there is. As dysfunctional as some parts of Russian culture seem to be, they seem to be the only whites in the world that aren't actively destroying themselves. And I don't need to hear that Putin is some Jewish shill. You know what? They all are, as far as I'm concerned. I've come to accept that everything is good for the Jews because everything has to be in order for them to survive. Because their breeding strategy cannot allow them to survive on their own. They have to manipulate what already exists. So I don't really care if Putin goes to Israel or, puts papers in the wall, wears a yarmulke, whatever. That's irrelevant to me. I don't hear any fucked up shit coming out of Russia about how a Somali immigrant who raped some underage Swedish girl gets community service. Yeah, that happened. That was sent to me on Twitter. So if the savior of the white race is going to come from anywhere, that's where I see it coming from. That's the only... It's the only leader I see that isn't completely sabotaging the interests of his own people. If anybody else has any other ideas, be my guest. Okay, next. From Greg. Hey man, I thought this might interest you. Probably someone sent you this, but just to be sure. From theguardian.com. 2 boyfriends, polyamory, socially acceptable video. Oh God. I'm going to take a look at this when I am not recording, and I will report back to you next week. I'll even lay in the audio if it won't cause me any problems with copyright. From Hank the Tank. No questions this week, just wanted to say thanks for doing what you're doing. It's comforting to know that there are people out there who keep calm in the eye of the storm that we call the downfall of Western civilization. Really lightens my load, no homo, and helps me quite a bit in grasping this madness. And I thank you, because if it wasn't for people listening and sending in questions, I would have no real motivation to do this. I would play video games all day. From Christopher. Once again, thanks for the great show. I appreciate it. I have a question regarding what to do when confronted with a degenerate. Would it be better to go out of my way to be aggressive and attack their beliefs, or be much more passive? I guess it depends on the situation. However, if I'm confident in my beliefs, shouldn't I put them to good use? I ask this because I made one of my girlfriend's friends cry by showing her a Yuri Bezmenov video, the one that said people like her would be discarded. She still spouts ludicrous shit and chills her sociology professor's textbook, so spreading the truth seems futile. The funny thing was that after her little tantrum, she proceeded to insult me behind my back. Well, that's kind of what happens when females are confronted with very blunt truths that, and I say this from personal experience, it's just how they're wired, and I'm not interested in changing that. After all, how can I know what it is to be a woman? I do not have a uterus, I do not have a brain of a woman, I do not have anything of a woman, so leave them to their womanly ways. But when confronted with a degenerate, I don't want to say anything, because I don't want to get any of their diseases on me, potentially. I don't want to be attacked by these people. Who knows what they're carrying? But in all seriousness, I say when the rare occurrence that I am confronted with a degenerate happens, I say to myself, in my head, forgive them, Lord, they know not of what they do. Because if they're directly confronted in a very blunt, harsh way, they're just going to hold on to their previous notions even harder, which is why I do what I do. Because if they encounter it, it's a very indirect thing. It's not like I am directly saying, you son of a bitch, you degenerate, you this, you that. It's a very indirect thing. It is not, this channel is not personally directed towards anybody. It is a very general thing about specific modes of behavior. Not about specific people, specific behaviors. But the best thing to do in a situation where you don't have a public show that anybody can listen to or watch or whatever is just say stuff. Say some mildly politically incorrect stuff while you're in line at the grocery store. And if they get huffy about it, you have the upper hand. You can be the bemused outsider as they're the angry insider attacking you for something you said offhand in line at the grocery store. That's how you deal with these people. You be the aggressors. You go on the offensive. You don't play defense. You bring it up. You don't let them bring it up. So that's how you deal with them. You really don't. You just have opinions about them. And if they happen to hear it, game on. So, yeah. Alright, next up from Han. Hopefully this is a decent question, but here goes. Should law-abiding blacks feel guilty for obscenely high crime statistics by their non-law-abiding counterparts? Should they be lumped into the same category as the truly harmful ones? Also, you are right about how during the summer the media seems to push more asinine shit due to kids being out of school. Well, I think that nobody can debate this at this point. But as for blacks, whether they should feel guilty for the fact that many blacks decide to misbehave, I don't think they should feel guilty. For the same reason that I don't feel guilty for stupid shit that white people do. The only thing that an individual can do is look out for their individual behavior. Trying to stop people from engaging in destructive behavior likely will end in destruction for the person trying to stop it. Now, it's a different thing when people like Al Sharpton or whatever are encouraging their brethren, people of their race, to misbehave. That's a different story. But he wouldn't feel guilty for doing that. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it in the first place. So, no, I think that they should feel some concern towards the fact that many people of their race decide to misbehave, but guilt, no. Not in the least. Okay, let's do Ask FM questions. Why are you against gay marriage? Because it can't be. Marriage is not about my feelings, how I feel, love. If that's what it's about, it's fucking doomed. Once upon a time, marriage was used to keep track of who's having babies with who. In other words, availing the resources of two families to the child of this marriage in order for that child to have the best chance at a good life as possible. This is what it's about. It is about the next generation, ensuring the health and security of it. It's not about, I love them very much, therefore. I had a recent conversation where this idea of, oh, I married them because I love them is a very, very recent thing. You ask somebody 200 years ago, why'd you get married? Well, I wanted kids. Well, this guy, he's got money. He can provide for my children. He provides for our children. That's what it's about. It's not about fucking feelings and love. That's the worst reason to get married. And this is not even considering the various social dysfunctions associated with homosexual behavior. I'm not even considering that in this equation. For the sake of fairness. Because I could bring it up. I do bring it up. But I think I brought it up enough. Just listen to part 1. I'm doing this for my sake, not yours. Your thoughts on interracial marriage. With why I oppose gay marriage in mind, I think that it can only work out if there's a bridge between the two races, which is to say if somebody is of half that race, half the race that they're marrying into. That way the kids will have a stronger sense than one of their parents as to what race they belong. Because I haven't met many of these kinds of people, but I have met people who look white, but later I find out that they are quarter Asian and they don't really look like it. They say, oh yeah, one of my parents is half Asian and I couldn't tell. And as far as I can tell, they consider themselves white. So that's an example, and that's a way that I can see interracial marriage working out in the favor of the children. But that's all I really have to say on the subject. Will the South rise again? From the looks of it, no. Thoughts on Trump running for president? If I consented to be governed, I would vote for him. I think that he is refreshingly honest on a lot of things. And then found an unusually intellectual post on Tumblr. It's a long read, but it makes great points against the gender specials on Tumblr with sources to back it up. What are your thoughts on it? I'll report back on this because it's getting pretty late. I don't think I'll have time to read this. And then we have a link to Vine, which I'll check out later. Let's see, what else? My father says that he supports welfare because if he lost his job and his employer went under, he would have temporary income till he found a new one. What is your opinion on welfare for those that leech and those that would have used it respectfully? Well, I think the original intention behind welfare is that people would use it respectfully, people would not abuse the system, people would be honest with it. But Most people take things too far. I think that is the natural human impulse, to abuse things, to abuse systems, to wear systems out, to wear anything out. So you have to look at what is being introduced to begin with, and look at how people use welfare. It is not a safety net, it's a hammock. So ideally, we would replace welfare with charity, but we do not live in an ideal world, as we cover every week here on this show. So until next time, check out the new subreddit. Send me your emails if you'd like to send me there. commonfilth@commonfilth.com. Ask.fm, ask.fm/commonfilth. You can send me questions there as well. So until next week, you guys take care of yourselves. I appreciate you listening to me. Be good to each other. Talk to you later.